This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. I can't emphasize enough to anybody out there that's new to my channel to understand that the news is not here to inform. It's here to condition you. It's here to program you into wanting and doing what the government wants you to do. Eventually, you don't realize that years in advance, they are getting you desensitized and conditioned into what they want. And ultimately, the big thing coming before 2030 is a digital identity. Now, some of you have probably dealt with this along the lines of using some type of social media platform where now they're making people verify their name, their address, their social security, because in order to use the internet in the future, they've conditioned everybody now to be obsessed with it, to depend on it. In order to use it in the future, you will have to have a digital ID. That is when I will no longer be on this platform. And of course, I fully believe that the digital ID and biometric data will have to do with embedding the mark of the beast into your genetic code. You will not be able to do anything on the internet without it. This is what they've been waiting for. They've been waiting for people to become dependent on the internet to the point of if they shut the internet off, like you saw them do with, just for example, people's phones for a couple of hours when AT&T went down a month ago. The movie Leave the World Behind with no internet. Nobody knows how to function. They've waited and waited and waited to condition humanity to the point where parents have pushed it onto their children, and now nobody can live without the internet. They will get everybody to get a digital ID. And I covered this recently in regards to that Keanu Reeves story about people getting scammed, but you may have noticed, and I'm gonna tell you why. You're seeing more and more stories every single day about online scams, right? Here's an article that just came out. ID verification is rising as social media's next big issue. That's why you're hearing stories about catfishing, right? Tinder's new catfish ID may help daters according to experts. You're hearing stories about the Uber driver. Everybody heard the story about the Uber driver that couldn't look more staged, right? The Uber driver just conveniently had a camera pointing towards the house. And of course, the man decided to come out. He saw an older woman with nothing on her, no weapon on her, and walked her back to her car, then eventually shot her. Of course, this guy's probably getting sent over to Israel to spend out his living days because there's no chance he's going to jail. All of these stories, if you listen to the fine line between it, is about online scamming. They're using every angle they can get. Dangerous threats like this, where a man got scammed because somebody was pretending to be somebody they weren't and saying they were going to scam him out of money and send someone to their home. Then stories about online romances, how people are getting catfished online. They're sending money to people they don't know. Listen to the stories that are out there. They're everywhere. And I know that people out there have probably stumbled upon it, but not understood why they keep hearing about it. They're conditioning you with it because nobody's going to be able to post a single comment on the internet without a digital ID. You're going to be held accountable for everything you say. I've talked about the carbon footprint. Every movement you make, this all comes hand in hand with the digital ID and verification. You won't be able to do anything on the internet anymore. There won't be any sock accounts. There won't be any spam accounts. And people are going to go along with it. They're conditioning you without you realizing it into wanting a digital ID and thinking it's no big deal, but ultimately it is a big deal, okay? These scam stories are there to condition you into wanting it, and when they come out with it, you'll say, you know what? I guess it's about time we have it. I can't live without the internet. I might as well get it. And keep a close eye on some of these ridiculous actors you'll see during these clips who have been scammed on the internet. Of course, they're not telling you yet what the solution is, and that's how they operate. They're telling you what the problem is, and they're watching you react to it. The more you hear the story, the more it's going to be in your mind. You're going to hear about somebody else who gets scammed. You're going to hear about somebody else who gets catfished. And what they won't tell you is that the people doing the catfishing and the scamming are actually government operatives who are seeking out civilians to do this to, because normal people aren't doing it. I'm not saying that there's not people out there who are rip-off artists. I get it. Of course there are. But ultimately, the government is doing this to their own civilians. So they're telling you the problem, which is online scamming. The reaction is what you're taking or what's coming out of you when you see this. You're taking it in, then you're reacting. They haven't told you the solution yet, but read between the lines because the solution is a digital ID. Look.
They're blinded by love, and it's costing them more than just their money.
You feel like you feel shame and guilt. Shame lives in the dark.
The red flags this woman ignored that she wants you to know about tonight. That is where we start with our I-team. And by now, I'm sure you've heard about romance scams. People use fake identities, and these scammers, they prey on vulnerable Americans who are looking for love. Then they take thousands of dollars from unsuspecting victims. But what you may not realize is just how massive this problem has become. Investigative reporter Brian New, along with our national CBS News team, really diving deep into this scam. Brian, joining us live right now. And honestly, Brian, it's eye-opening data when you bring it all together.
Yeah, it really is, Nicole. According to the FBI, last year alone, more than 19,000 Americans fell for a romance scam, losing more than $1.3 billion. But experts say that's just the tip of the iceberg because many victims never report their crime. And for them, the damage can often extend far beyond their bank account.
So his story was that he was from Scotland.
In hindsight, she says the red flag seemed so obvious.
He had been mugged and robbed and shot even.
But for this McKinney woman who asked us not to show her identity, she says her loneliness was blinding.
So he didn't have any money, basically, and didn't have access to any money.
So how much money did you end up sending him?
I got off lucky with a total of $3,200.
But it's not the financial loss that haunts her. It's the realization that the person she spent months chatting with on Instagram was nothing more than a scammer. And she, a college-educated professional woman, fell for it.
Why don't you think you saw those red flags in the moment?
Because I felt as though I was desperately alone. Where you think, how could I be so stupid? I tried to kill myself because I felt like I couldn't live knowing that I had participated in something like that.
Last year, Texas residents alone reported more than 46,000 imposter scams to the Federal Trade Commission, making it the #1 type of fraud reported. But despite this staggering number, federal investigators say this crime is largely underreported due to shame and embarrassment.
I did not come from a rich family.
On the other side of these scams are people like Chris Maxwell in Nigeria.
It's a common thing here. People do it a lot.
Using this picture he stole from an innocent person off the internet, along with a step-by-step scam guide, Maxwell said he would go to Facebook and dating websites pretending to be an American soldier. The former romance scammer targeted divorced and widowed women from the United States. Over the course of 4 years, he talked to more than 100 women online, with 10 ultimately sending him money.
I made over $70,000.
That's a lot of money.
It's a whole fortune.
When you were committing these scams, did you ever feel guilty?
I actually stopped scamming because I felt guilty that I scammed a woman. I scammed her over $30,000. She became sick. She became depressed. She was 61 years old. I have a mother, and just imagine someone is doing this to my own mom.
These days, Maxwell works as a consultant for Social Catfish, the U.S. company dedicated to preventing online fraud. But while Maxwell says he no longer scams people, there's no shortage of those who still do.
It's a substantial problem, and it's one that's rapidly accelerating.
At the U.S. Justice Department, federal investigators say a new wave of romance scammers is using artificial intelligence to generate fake photos, fake audio, even fake videos known as deepfakes. All this makes it easier to pull off a romance scam and harder to spot one.
It is chilling, and it also makes it challenging for law enforcement to intervene.
We have to stop it.
How do we stop it?
We stop it by reporting and acknowledging that it's occurring. People feel stupid. You feel like you feel shame and guilt. Shame lives in the dark.
But perhaps in the light, deception can be stopped.
anything for love. CBS Chicago, along with our partners at CBS News, are taking you inside the romance scam epidemic.
This trickery leaves victims with broken hearts and empty wallets. CBS 2's Lauren Victory is live in our newsroom to explain why this problem is only getting worse, Lauren.
Well, Marie and Jim, falling in love online is possible for many people, but sometimes the person on the other side of the screen is fake. We learned new technology may make it harder and harder to figure out what's real.
Sending you this quick video so that you can know that I'm fine.
The eyebrows are a big tell there.
What's obvious about this one?
The movement of the mouth doesn't sync up well with the audio at all.
These videos are apparently sent by romance scammers to their lovers. We show them to Mike Riley, who teaches at UIC about artificial intelligence. Riley says it's only a matter of time before fraudsters get their hands on better technology, like the artificial intelligence system responsible for this appearance of a woman walking in a city. She is not real. The people behind her, the lights, and the buildings were fake too. This man is also an AI creation. Software like this can cost as little as $2, and sometimes it's free.
The AI is great. It'll do many wonderful things. But in the hands of a bad actor, a video tool like this can create a lot of havoc.
Havoc and heartbreak is what the CBS News Network investigative team found across the country. And among the victims, Laura Kowal from Galena, Illinois. She was looking for love online, got caught up in a scam, and it may have cost Laura her life. CBS News chief investigative correspondent Jim Axelrod met her daughter, who's searching for answers.
She started looking for clues, sifting through bank records, and discovering her mom had wired Frank about $1.5 million, just about everything she had.
I think as I went through and started uncovering this, I just became almost sick at just the depths of all of it.
In the last year, 2023, our best estimate is losses in the range of $1.3 billion related to romance scams alone.
$1.3 billion.
And that represents an increase from about $500 million in 2019.
Arun Rao runs the Consumer Protection Branch at the Department of Justice, which investigates online romance scams.
It's been a rapid rate of increase, but we believe that is also substantially undercounting the true extent of the problem.
Jim joins me now. We've both been working on these pieces for months. And Jim, I'm curious, what's the most interesting thing you found in the course of your reporting about romance scams?
Well, simply something that is the most heartbreaking part of all of this, and that is the capacity people have. We're talking about intelligent people, successful people, shrewd people, people who have had a great deal of success in life and amassed a lot of assets. When it comes to meeting somebody and trying to sort of fill that hole in their heart, they so badly want to connect, they start to trust. And once you have trust and once you have hope, you also have the recipe for being able to be scammed. And so you have all these successful people who then write checks, send money to people who they've never met before. And Lauren, that's really sort of what we've learned the most as a tip to avoid being scammed. If you've never met the person you're talking to, no matter what they're telling you, you don't know them. If you're communicating just by phone or text or email, don't ever send money to somebody who you've never met. Never, ever.
That's a really, really good tip that people should heed that advice and start following. We're also curious, I hear that you've been reporting also about victims that then turn into co-conspirators.
Yeah, this is a really sinister new dimension to these romance scams. The victim will, in some cases, maybe in the course of developing a relationship, send some kind of information that may be used as leverage against them, or maybe they just want to keep the possibility of a connection going, and they'll listen to what the scammer tells them to do, either because they've been leveraged or because they still want to connect with this person. The scammer now may ask them to open up accounts and actually launder money. Well, law enforcement thinks that makes them complicit in a crime. So the victim then becomes part of the conspiracy. As I say, sinister.
Online scammers are nothing new. From bad links to fake emails, fraudsters have many techniques to try and steal your money.
Yeah, one strategy the FBI is worried about are these romance scams. Investigative reporter Liz Crawford joins us now. So Liz, why is the FBI so focused on this?
Well, you know, for starters, the scammers are getting more sophisticated. Organized crime rings are often behind it. And the popularity of dating apps has given the criminals an easy in. Secondly, these scams not only rob people of their money, but often leave people heartbroken, depressed, and ashamed.
In her mid-40s, a workaholic with a PhD, Karina says she fell for a career-oriented guy named Evan last year, who she met on a dating site.
The connection got much deeper. We basically chatted for more extended periods of time.
She says the two talked about their careers and shared personal things about their lives.
He spent a lot of time getting to know me. Like I said, hours a day. This person became my confidant, my best friend. I was communicating with this person more than anyone else in my life at the time.
Evan's career? Finance. And after weeks of chatting, he gave her a path to pay off her student loans, investing in cryptocurrency. It required borrowing from her 401k.
Borrow money to make money, that seems weird. But he said this is how wealthy people do it all the time.
The crypto platform showed her money growing. Evan convinced her to invest more. She borrowed from friends, family, and took out a high-interest personal loan. But when Karina went to withdraw her earnings, she learned there was no money. There was no Evan.
I just broke down. I fell apart.
A total of $150,000 gone. Karina said she had spent 3 months communicating with this person she thought was Evan via text because he always had a good excuse for why he couldn't talk on the phone. Authorities say this is common.
I think the most damage comes as emotional damage to the victim themselves, because not only were they defrauded, but they were heartbroken often.
According to the FBI, last year, a total of 970 people across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware reported they were victimized in a romance scam, losing a total of $33.5 million. Experts say these numbers are likely grossly shy of the actual toll.
They may be embarrassed. They may be afraid to tell their friends or family.
They're going to tell you they love you.
Last month, the FBI held an educational event at a senior center in Browns Mills, New Jersey, in Burlington County. One of the topics, romance scams. Experts say baby boomers are often the target, but now so are other age groups. Kathy Waters co-founded Advocating Against Romance Scammers. She says she educates lawmakers and the public about the threat of fake romance online.
They like to love bomb you. They call you all these different, sweetie, dear, babe. They're concerned about your health.
Karina now knows the photos Evan sent are stolen from someone else's Instagram account. She's moved back in with her mom and is trying to save money.
I think of them as terrorists.
Waters offers advice for people who suspect their loved one could be caught up in a romance scam.
The worst thing to do is to pass judgment, to make them feel stupid, because once these victims realize and they come out of it, they are their worst enemy.
In Karina's darkest moments after she realized she was scammed,
I was so embarrassed and I didn't want to tell my friends and family what had happened. And I thought it would be easier to just go away.
But instead, she said her loved ones have been supportive and helpful. She's sharing her experience to help others.
If it means putting my face out there, then that's what I have to do.
Now, many of the scammers are overseas, making it challenging for law enforcement to find them and recover people's money. The FBI agent I talked with said they are trying to work with other governments, but they have a long way to go.
So again, they're telling you what the problem is. The problem is that this is happening, people. The problem is this is dangerous. The problem is people are losing all of their money. Old people are getting scammed. People are falling in love. Don't you feel bad? They're falling in love on the internet. And they don't even know who they're talking to. It could be, well, it's likely an NSA or CIA agent, but of course they'll tell you it's just some guy who's trying to get money out of you, right? Over and over and over, you hear it, you get conditioned. Then ultimately you wait for the resolution. They come in with the resolution. The resolution is the digital ID. Now, I showed you earlier in the video, one of the stories out there again is about Tinder, right? Tinder's using using a digital ID, or at least making you verify your ID. This is how it starts. This is how you get desensitized. It just starts with you uploading a photo of your license. It just starts with you taking a picture of yourself and verifying that you're real. That's how this starts. Okay, you get conditioned that way. Then ultimately, they come in and they say you need a digital ID, and people go, well, what's the difference? I've already shopped on the internet. I've already uploaded my license, my physical license to the internet. I've already taken my photo so I can do this or that on the internet. And the next thing you know, the implementation of a digital ID is here. And it's forced onto you without being forced. Your compliance, okay, by complying to it, it's the same as you just going, okay, well, then you're complying to it. And ultimately, this leads to not only more control, it leads to more consequences, okay? Because they're going to monitor everything you're doing on the internet as far as posts that you make. People out there are like, they don't care what I say on the internet. They do care. Do you know how many people get shadow banned on comments now on YouTube videos or on Facebook? I hear all the things that you guys say about comments not showing up, et cetera, et cetera. Well, who do you think's doing it? Big Brother is. There's words that you're putting in sentences, and then you have your little tattletales who are reporting your comments that aren't compliant with the communist government that's in place. So thus you're getting wiped off. But ultimately in the future, everybody's going to be censored. The people who are compliant now with it, who think that the government has their best interests in mind, are eventually going to wake up and realize it's too late. And they're going to be under the thumb of Big Brother as well. So all of these stories are formulated. And for anybody out there to think that they're not, I mean, look, when this story happened a couple of weeks ago with the Uber driver, I'm sure when you saw it, you probably were like, it looks a little suspicious, right? None of the stories on the news are real. That's what you have to understand. You think, if your mind is perceiving this as what's happening in reality, it's much easier to control you and manipulate you into what they want. Nobody thinks 10 steps ahead or 20 steps down the line or 2 years down the line. Think about right now. And the more you see it, the more you get conditioned into it without realizing it. They come in with the solution that they want, which is more control, which is a digital identification, okay? We've quietly, think about how it's gone over the last couple of years. Quietly, they've started implementing this stuff on places like Twitter, on places like Tinder, okay? I know for a fact on YouTube, for people out there that are wondering, this is implemented on YouTube. Now, you don't have to do your license. You could do just a photo with your phone, okay? And there's ways around it, obviously. That's how I'm still standing, because you would be surprised for $5 how many people would be willing to take a picture and not give a crap about what it's for or anything else. And that's how people like me are. So we're going to be able to scam our way around it now, but ultimately in the future, you won't be able to when it's something that's embedded in you, when your digital ID is biometrical. Okay, but it starts with this. It starts with compliance. It starts with, well, I already upload my license online. And then more and more stories. Have you heard the stories about how the government's pretending suddenly to care about pornography on the internet? I mean, are you kidding me, right? The government actually cares now about what's corrupt and what's not. The government wants to make sure that there's a digital ID so minors can't look at porn. So yeah, that sounds like a great thing for all of us. It sounds like a great responsible thing. But this is the same government that's telling you that men could have babies, that people should be allowed to go into public schools and give lap dances to kids. So you have to look further and say, what are they trying to do? Because they don't care. What they care about is control. What they care about is tyranny. And that's what we're headed towards with a digital ID. So you can't fall and get duped into it with stories like this that feel bad for online scams, because they literally make up the news. These are actors, they're crisis actors, they're Freemasons, they're Demolay, they're Job's daughters, there's Eastern Star witches. Just you've been so conditioned into thinking that when you turn on the news, you're finding out what's happening in the world, but you're not. You're being conditioned. It's called programming. It's so imperative that we break free from it and you realize that this is not what's happening in the outside world. They're creating the perspective so that you react the way they want you to react, and they can put more laws in place that you'll comply with. I talked about it in the video that I did in regards to Amazon. Right? How people have become compliant to turning their home into a surveillance home, where they're putting cameras on the door, they're putting devices in their home that are listening, and they don't even realize what they're doing. They're getting feared into it. Oh, porch pirates. As if the cops would do anything about it anyway. Oh, put the camera on your door for safety. Oh, everybody just goes along with it. If you told them 20 years ago they'd have a camera on their door that the government could access or Amazon could access and send to the police or other people could hack into, people would say, are you out of your mind? And not only are we compliant to it, not only are we allowing it, people are willingly paying out of their own pocket to turn their homes into surveillance states, or surveillance homes, I should say. So we have to watch these stories. That's the mindset you got to be in. This is not a mindset you're going to get from alt-right media. You aren't going to get this from Ben Shapiro, because they're part of the system. They keep you in the left-right divide. They keep you in thinking, well, the liberal media can, in the news and stuff, they give you the perspective of anti-Trump. They know that that's going to garner more support for Trump by making Trump a victim out in the public and persecuting him. It's by design. What they don't tell you is that these stories are manufactured. It's to manufacture your behavior. So they create these stories. Think of it this way. If the government goes, okay, we want everyone to have a digital ID by 2030, and say the year's 2000, you'd sit there, you go, I'm not going to have a digital ID, right? In the year 2000, by the year 2010, you might say, oh, I could see how that'd be normal with PayPal, et cetera. But what they would need to do is go, how can we get people to get a digital ID? How can we get people to get something inside their body? How can we get people to do this, and that, right? How do you think they get you to do it? By making up the news to make you either in fear of something like a porch pirate, so you put a camera on your door, or making up the news and saying, you're going to get scammed online. You're going to get scammed online. Your neighbor got scammed online. So-and-so got scammed online. No, it's not just about, and then they hit you from every angle, like romance scams, financial scams, murder scams in your driveway with an Uber driver, right? So then you start hearing these stories. That's how you become compliant to what they ultimately want. And you don't hear that anywhere else because they don't actually want you to wake up from this. The alt-right media and everybody else out there wants you to stay trapped in this, thinking that this is what's really happening in the world. It's not. It's formulated. You ever hear the term simulated reality? I can't emphasize it enough. They're simulating the reality that you're living in by making up news stories so that you ask for and comply with what they want. That's what's going on around us right now. Nobody's paying attention to it. I know the people who listen to my channel are the majority of you, but I also know new people are here. So be aware of this. Share this. This isn't about left or right. That's part of the trap, okay? It's about taking away human rights, human liberties. That's what they're doing. That's part of divide and conquer. And I tell people this all the time. They just can't grasp it because the mind control is so deep. They can't grasp the fact that in order for this new world order to move forward, this is what conservatives, MAGA, Q doesn't understand. They need to control both sides. It's as simple as that. They would never leave this to chance that all of a sudden a revolution would occur and that these people would be, taken care of by the civilians. They got control of both sides. They have full control of both sides, so they're playing both sides. Think about it from that perspective, right? They control both sides, so they're playing both sides, and they're playing both sides against one another, and it's working out perfectly, and the formulated news is helping get that across. That's why when you hear the Daily Wire and all these people and you go, oh, well, they claim they're censored, but they're not censored. Well, they're not censored because they're keeping you in the left-right paradigm. So they'll give you little truths. They'll talk common sense about men having babies and these things that we shouldn't even be debating. So it lures you in. They don't come out and tell you the left-right's a trap. They just keep you divided from liberals. And the same with the liberal media to the liberals. They keep them divided from the conservatives. And that's by design. They don't come out and tell you, hey, the whole thing with the news is fake. They just say, oh, the news is fake. It's fake news because they want you to only care about the stories about Donald Trump or Republicans, right? They don't want you to realize all of it's fake. They make up stories. They use crisis actors. These people push these stories over and over and over again, right? In our faces, down our throats. Scammers, scammers, scammers. And nobody thinks ahead and goes, oh, maybe these people are smart. Well, what do you think the CIA's been doing all these years? Of course they're smarter than you. It's their game. They're playing us like pawns in the game. And it starts and ends with the news. It's formulated. All of it is. And nobody out there seems to be able to grasp it. And even if a real event occurs, which I'm not saying real events don't occur, a real domestic dispute, they rarely make the news, but they'll make the news if they want to feed you some agenda off of it or keep you distracted with some story that they could wave in front of your eyes while they're passing some law right behind your back. Okay, the news is to simulate your reality. It gives you a perspective that is not really happening in the world. And then ultimately you cave in and you go along with what they wanted from the get-go, which is why they created the story in the first place. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you as always and your families.